Folks, how are you doing all? So, took a break from doing the video thing for a little while, and now I am back. Getting close to the beginning of early voting, so things have to get just a little bit more serious. Now, we're not going to take all of the humor away because, well, I don't want to be, a stuffy politician just yet. Got some great news. Fantastic news. And this fantastic news is I've been able to confirm a suspicion with irrefutable evidence, and I'm going to share that with you. So I've known this for a long time, for several months, practically since the drawing. I have known that Mr. David Odell Williams is playing for the mayor's team. However, knowing something to be true and being able to prove it are two different things. And now, as of last night, thank you, Mr. Williams. I appreciate you stepping up to the plate and taking a stand. And we'll see. We'll go through that in a minute here. But because of the stand Mr. Williams takes here, I am able to say definitely to you new voters that Mr. Williams is playing on the mayor's team, and make your decisions accordingly. If you prefer the status quo that we have now, then vote the mayor's team. If you prefer a more forward-thinking approach to the city with independent thinkers, that is, thinkers who are not tied to any particular social group or clique or good old boy network in town, then do not. Find those folks and vote for them. All right, so here's the evidence that I was going to show everyone first. I was really coming down to the wire, and I was thinking, crap, I'm going to have to kind of wing this. But this is what I was going to show before, and we'll see it just as to use as further confirmation of what I already knew. And that is these. I went around town and I took some pictures around town here recently, just to kind of get a feel of what's happening as far as the, because in town we have the old guard, I'll call them, not the establishment monarchy, not necessarily. They're two different things, but we do have some old guard folks. So I went around and I took these pictures, and here is what I am finding to say that the mayor's team are these three individuals. Number one, here's our first picture. We see here, who is this vote? Sorry on the video thing, Jan Whitehead. Obviously, folks, mayor's team, obviously. Along with Jan, we have here David Ham. David Ham, by the way, is not a new, he is not a new candidate. Mr. Ham served for several years back in the mid-2000s, I think it was. And Mr. Ham is the older brother of Stephanie Ham Hodges, who is the previous city secretary who retired when David left. David Wallace, our previous city administrator. So, this is Mr. Ham, not a new candidate, but definitely establishment. And then here we have our buddy, Mr. David Odell Williams. All right, so there's the first picture. And here is another. And who do we have here? Oh, David Odell Williams, David Ham, and here's Jan Whitehead right there. This would be one of the establishment folks here. Of course, we won't be naming them because that would be mean. I think they'd be happy to admit it, though. And here we have, there's just outside, here is David Odell Williams, and here is Jan Whitehead right there. And this last one, I think, no, not the last one. This will be the last one. I have to be careful with this one because the last one will be a sitting city council member. Here we are again, Mr. David Odell Williams. Mr. David Ham, and Mrs. Jan Whitehead. Right there. All right, so that's just a few. And there are several more examples around town, and they vary. You know, it's sometimes Jan's there or not there, whatever. But I think you get the point. I need to sneeze. And the final coup de grace is going to be this one. Which again, let me make sure all of the landmarks are gone, lest I be arrested for doxing. Anyway, best I can do. So, here we go. Ta-da! Sitting city council members outside of these council members' house. Jan Whitehead. David Ham. Mr. David Odell Williams. So this was the evidence that I was going to use from the beginning, you know. But it's sticky because there's still plausible deniability. Well, now we don't have to have plausible deniability thanks to Mr. Williams standing up and making, or stepping up and making a stand. And again, let me say, Mr. Williams, I appreciate you doing that. I think it was bold. And I've been trying to get you to do it for a while. So, here we go. In a recent post by Alderman Michael Poppenfuss, he advertised the most recent April 15th candidate form. And Mr. Odell Williams posted on the advertisement, he said, just a reminder that I will be out of town today and not able to attend. If anyone has any questions, they can message me or email me at blah. I mean, it's public. I would give it to you, but I'm just not, whatever. Anyway, his email address, whichever one he's using. And so I post a question to him a couple of days later, and I say, David Odell Williams, I have a question, if you would. By the way, in case you're suspecting me of lying, anyone, here we go. That's what we go. Okay, so for whatever reason, I can't get the link to that farging post to work. I sent it out to a whole bunch of people, and they keep telling me, and they're sending it back saying, hey, look, this isn't working. So what do I know? I'm a Facebook rookie. This is my first account ever to have it. Now I have Facebook, political Facebook, Instagram. So I don't know what I'm doing. So here we go. David Odell Williams, I have a question, if you would. What are your thoughts on the events of Feb 7, i.e., the arrest of a sitting council member on what we now know were bogus charges and executed on that particular day in order to rig an important vote on interim employees? Folks, the municipal attorney and city secretary are quite powerful positions in the city. Your announcement for your candidacy included this, quote, and this is David Odell's candidacy announcement. He says, I believe in accountability, transparency, and taking ownership of the results of you and your team's actions, both positive and negative. And I have that right here. You can look on his page and you can see it. So here we go. Right here. So I asked him that question, and then once again, so the way the question is worded is key. All right. So Mr. Williams replied. Okay. He says, Scott Yarbrough, that is an interesting question, but since I have not seen any official evidence of or findings of fact related to the alleged misconduct and incident, I really can't form much of an opinion. Well, he's got quite the opinion on the rest here. And then there's more of an opinion down here. And then even more of an opinion here. And we're going to go through all of these opinions. So, folks, the important point at this juncture is to consider how I worded the question, all right? I asked Mr. Williams if he would answer a question for me. And I asked him about the events of February 7th. And I place it in the context of his announcement a quote in his announcement, which says, I believe in accountability, transparency, and taking ownership of the results of you and your team's actions. Excuse me. Both positive and negative. So, really what this means is, Mr. Williams, I think you're on the mayor's team, and I think, therefore, that you should take accountability and ownership of the arrest. What say you? That's kind of another way to look at this question as I've formed it. And tellingly, he didn't say what I would have said were it I were not a part of the team. I would have read my question and I would have said, well, Scott, the first thing is I'm part of no one's team, so I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to get at here, but let's get that clarified up front. Mr. Williams did not do that. Hence, make your own conclusion from there. All right, so the answer is, again, I really can't form much of an opinion. Everything I've heard is hearsay and secondhand information. However, it's always the however. However, I was surprised that an elected official could be potentially arrested, but after reviewing the local government code, section 22.042, the powers and duties of mayor of a general law type A city, I learned that the mayor has the following power and duty. Quote, open parentheses, lowercase b, close parentheses, the mayor shall inspect the conduct of each subordinate municipal officer and shall cause any negligence, carelessness, or other violation of duty to be prosecuted and punished. End quote. This has been in effect since September 1, 1987, and apparently bringing charges was well within the scope of the mayor's authority. Now, this caught my eye. Apparently bringing charges was well within the scope of the mayor's authority. And I got to thinking, that's strange because, as I recall from the February 7th council meeting, which I attended, the mayor denied having anything to do with the charges. That's what I recalled. So I went and checked because I have a copy of that very council meeting. And I'm going to share that with you right here, and you're going to hear for yourself what the mayor says and the city attorney says when I think it's Kayla Lane steps up and asks the mayor to please release Ms. Thompson. I'm probably going to screw this up, but here we go.
That'll take 15.
Now Kayla says, excuse me, point of order.
Point of order. As the mayor of Godley, you need to call and withdraw your charges against Councilwoman Thompson tonight, or there will be serious repercussions for you tomorrow, but only you as the mayor can do that. So you need to call and cancel those charges against Councilwoman Thompson tonight, or there will be legal ramifications for you tomorrow.
I didn't charge him.
What? I didn't charge her, says the mayor. But according to Mr. Odell Williams, apparently bringing charges was well within the scope of the mayor's authority. Let's continue.
I didn't charge him.
As the mayor, you have the ability to cancel those charges against him.
I don't think so. Those charges were filed by
She's talking about canceling the
county attorney. County attorney filed those charges.
That's a lie. County attorney did not file those charges.
Is that there are
This is Nicole Core.
They're the ones who reviewed the information. They're the ones who have elected to prosecute. The city has zero involvement in this action.
Bull Scheisse, folks. Bull Scheisse. That never happened. In fact, it is indisputable that the county district attorney immediately tossed these charges out laughingly and said, no, don't don't even come near us with this again. So, what you just heard here from both the mayor and Wyatt, Hamilton, and Finlay, our illustrious, biased, and unobjective law firm representing the mayor and the Godley establishment, is a lie. Okay? So there's one point to bring up. So I am not exactly sure what this sentence means. Apparently bringing charges was well within the scope of the mayor's authority. Maybe he doesn't mean that the mayor brought the charges, but just that the mayor could bring the charges. But again, my question wasn't about whether the mayor had the authority to do it. The police have the authority to bring charges on anyone. The question is not who has the authority. The question is, should they? And the answer in this case was no. So we'll go on. Section 22.077 of the same code also outlines the removal of a municipal officer for various offenses, including the, quote, misconduct of malfeasance, end quote. Personally, I would have preferred this option if the evidence supported it and provided the officer, quote, with due notice, end quote, and an, quote, opportunity to be heard, end quote, as outlined in the statute before any action was taken. All right, there we go. Now, he says, since you have brought this up and have alleged that this was, quote, executed on that particular day in order to rig an important vote, end quote, I have the following observations. I love observations. Thank you, Mr. Williams. First of all, let me begin by saying that I don't know the sitting council member in question personally, and I honestly don't wish any ill will to her or her family. And of course not. And similarly, this discussion that I'm having with you is not a matter of personalities, sir. By all accounts, you are a wonderful man. Friendly, personable, smart. By your own admission, a man of character, integrity, transparency, and a man of experience. So I grant all of those to be true. I don't know you. I met you one time. The problem isn't you personally. The problem is the team for whom you've chosen to play. For me. So again, none of this that I'm doing here is meant to be personal. It is just a matter of a philosophical difference between the two of us. So that's all. And what man who rides an Harley and gets in the wind as a matter of relaxation can be all bad? Mr. Williams, I miss my bike. I sure do, and you are a lucky man. So, what man can be all bad who does that? None, I say. Anyway, so that's done. Prior to this incident, I'm continuing. Prior to this incident, the next sentence is great. I like this. I'm laughing with you, David. I also really don't like talking about people, but you did bring this subject up, so here are my thoughts and my speculations. Now, Dave, I also really don't like talking about people, but you brought it up, so we're going to have some thoughts and speculations. I love that, but no, it's not my fault, brother. It's you doing this, not me. Prior to this incident, the only thing I knew about her was that she owned a local business. Since this incident, I have learned 2 more things about her. First, she is the owner of an awesome-looking teardrop-style trailer. See, that's what you do. You bring some humor into the conversation. That's what I try to do, is bring some humor. Most people are mad around here. They just ticked off Danny Stewart, Ricky Roden, just mad. Let's have some fun, folks, right? Now, First, and second, apparently has a prior felony conviction from some time back. As you are well aware of, on the Texas Secretary of State's, quote, application for a place on the ballot for a general election for a city, school district, or other political subdivision, end quote, form, there is a felony conviction status question that must be completed by checking either, quote, I have not been finally convicted of a felony, or checking, quote, I have been finally convicted of a felony, but I have been pardoned or otherwise released from the resulting disabilities of that felony conviction, and I have provided proof of this fact with the submission of this application, end quote. Along with this question, there is also a sworn statement that includes the following, quote, I am aware that knowingly providing false information on the application regarding my possible felony conviction status constitutes a Class B misdemeanor. I further swear that the foregoing statements included in my application are in all things true and correct, end quote. Now again, I am making an assumption based on other people's reactions. So, it's an assumption based on assumptions. Gotta love that. That the felony status question may not have been answered truthfully on her application from the last election. Okay. Interesting question here. If so, wouldn't this represent grounds for immediate disqualification from holding office? I thought that was an interesting. I pulled that one out in my answer, actually, to him. And I said, what did I say? Where we go? Ah, yes. So, let's go back to the quote again. If so, that is that she misrepresented her felony status on the application, wouldn't this represent grounds for immediate disqualification from holding office? And I made the point to say, sure, if so, but that wasn't the charge. Why didn't your team bring that charge instead of the charge of tampering with a government document? You had her application for almost 2 years now. Furthermore, what does this have to do with the fact that the Johnson County DA basically laughed your team's actual charge out of their office? Now, so, and then I further go on and to say, assume this citizen hasn't been qualified to sit in her council seat all of this time. Does this then presuppose the citizen deserves to be arrested without bail in order to rig a vote so that your team can retain political power? I notice you didn't answer that question, but rather moved the goalposts to talk about whether or not she should have been elected in the first place. And you did that, Dave. You never answered my question. You moved the goalposts. Now, with all due respect, you've got to get up a little bit earlier in the morning. Just a little bit. All right. So let's move on now. So the next premise, if she wasn't qualified for office in the first place, what about the legality of anything she voted on, especially if her vote represented the deciding vote or her presence established a quorum? What are the legal ramifications and precedents? Well, Dave, by your own admission, you are something of a legal expert, so why don't you tell us? Because in your announcement, you say, here's your announcement. Rush Limbaugh there. You say, I have extensive knowledge and experience reading, interpreting, and applying relevant federal, state, and local laws and policy to the decision-making process. So I would ask you, Dave, you tell me. You're asking me what the legal ramifications and precedents are. You, sir, are the expert. What say you? What are the legal ramifications? If you know. All right, so we move on. Now, back to your original allegation. Would it be a rigged vote if she wasn't even eligible to hold office? Yes, of course it would, Dave. What difference does it make if she's ineligible to hold office to the fact that she was imprisoned, jailed, without bond, on a charge that had nothing to do with this, with the ineligibility issue, with the misdemeanor issue that you're bringing forward. Nothing at all. But rather on a completely different charge that was completely bogus as well, because again, there is also no question the district attorney tossed the charge. Poof. Bye. So, in my opinion, based on common sense, it seems any action that she took as an officer of the city should be null and void. Well, I replied to that. Thankfully, neither of that which you or I believe to be common sense is the rule of the day, but rather the law of the land is the rule of the day. And the law of the land is that this council member was duly elected by the voters of this city, and thus any actions voted and agreed upon by a majority of the council stand. With respect, that seems more like common sense to me, and it is. It really is. I mean, that's absolutely the case. So, let's move on. Again, these are my thoughts and speculations based on the little bit of information that I have seen posted. Okay. Now, if she properly disclosed this information on her application, and something else. Okay. Let's go back to this question. Let's go back to the question of if the felony status question may not have been answered truthfully on her application from the last election. All right. Dave says, if so, wouldn't this represent grounds for immediate disqualification from holding office? Well, she's still there, Dave. She's still there. And so my question back to you would be, why? Why is she still there? It seems to me that if there's two options here. One, that your team is comprised of morons who are unable to either do their research or for whatever reason they don't want to apply the law, or who knows what they're thinking. But she should be removed from office because they know that she should, and they're not doing it. Or two, you're wrong. Which of the two do I choose? Your team's a moron, a group of morons, or you're wrong. Seems to me the only possibilities. All right, so now back to... Now, if she properly disclosed this information on her application and provided the required documents, I apologize for bringing this up. All right, well, that's kind. If not, then this has created a potential colossal problem for the city for any action taken during her term of office. What problem, Dave? Why is this a problem? And if it is a colossal problem, why isn't your team doing something about it? Why hasn't your city attorney, or your team's, city attorney, said, hey guys, we have a colossal problem on our hands, and we need to do something about it now? Why hasn't that been done? And who says that there is a potential colossal problem? I mean, you, by your own admission, are the legal expert, so what is your opinion and why? Where are the statutes that you cite? Where is the precedent that you have read and you've researched? I'd like to know. Now, again, I want to emphasize that I don't personally know her or wish her any ill will. Well, sure. I mean, you would be a really mean dude if you did. No one wishes anyone ill. Well, okay, I can't say that. Oh, you can't say that. But I believe you. I absolutely believe you that you do not wish anyone ill will. I believe you. And of course, again, let me say that this video is merely it's not a personal video. It's that we have a philosophical difference. And I think the voters should have full disclosure. So, all right. Now, in another post, you asked what my vision for the city would be if elected. Personally, I would want to work collaboratively with the other council members to restore credibility to the institution so that we can attract and keep highly qualified and motivated individuals to fill current and future positions within the city so that city services are provided efficiently, safely, and in a timely manner. Dave, if you want to do that, you're going to have to buck your team, because your team has no interest in doing that. They haven't had any interest in doing that since December of 2022. The city council, that is the majority vote, who should have the authority, who has the current power, which is Michael Popenfuss, Roger Cornelison, and Jennifer Thompson, have had resumes ready to go. They've had people ready to go. They've had everything ready to go since December to bring people on, Dave. But the mayor has chosen to take a dictatorial approach to how that is actually the Godley establishment, will approach filling these positions. See, folks, AC isn't doing any of this by himself. Okay? I'm absolutely convinced of this. AC is following the instructions that he is receiving from his folks in the Godley establishment that are behind him, okay? It's just how it's gone for the last 15 years, folks. I mean, you can see it. Watch the videos. Do you see that these people, meaning AC, Jan, have any real clue about what they're doing? With respect, no, they don't. The mayor has little experience actually running a meeting, all right? He has to have his city attorney there to help him. Before, it was David Wallace, and that's why we're in this position we are. Because before this, David Wallace ran the show by himself. He was the one that decided what would go on the agenda, what would be voted upon, how the council meetings would be conducted, who would be on the council, because he was the titular head of the Godley establishment. And that's just how it's been, folks. That's just how it's worked. I've seen it. I've been here around here since 1978, and I've watched this go on since, 2001. So, it's no different. It's really no different than any other small town that's ever, or small community that's ever been existed on the face of the planet, right? It's just how it goes. You have a group of individuals who get used to running things, and they do run things, and they get used to it. And at that point, it can become a problem. There's an old adage that says absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, I'm not saying that there's been there has been corruption. And the fact of the arrest of an innocent council member to rig a vote is no doubt the textbook definition of corruption. But that's as far as I'll go for corruption. So the point being, folks, that Dave, your team is not interested in working collaboratively with the other council members to restore credibility to the institution. They're just not. And how are you, as one guy who's just come in here, somebody's asked you to come in and run for council, and you said, okay, I'll do it. Are you going to be willing to buck them? Because if you do, and I've seen this happen, James Healy, Jason Jordan, a number of other individuals, Dave, have bucked the Godley Monarchy, and they get kicked right out of the social group. Are you willing to take that chance? Frankly, I'd like to think that you would buck them, but I highly doubt it. I really do. So, okay, folks, that's it. That's the skinny on Mr. David Odell Williams. Dave, best of luck to you, sir. And, what can I say? Take care, folks.